Michael, you're an atheist. Many of your best friends are atheists. You debate with people who believe in God. What are atheism's best arguments?
The atheists who take a philosophical perspective use a different set of arguments than I would. They have has to do with the first cause and the prime mover, and they debunk all those. They sort of leave the theist arguments without any substance, ergo, there is no God. The approach I take is more positive, actually, in the sense of there's actually positive arguments against the idea that there is a God, which is anthropological, psychological, sociological studies of religion. And so the fact that where you happen to be born tells us which God you believe in and which religion you adhere to. And the fact that there's 10,000 different religions around the world, at least, if not more, and thousands of different gods. That's a strong indication that we created God, not vice versa.
The counter argument is that all of those different religions have a core concept of a supernatural agent of some kind, and that culturally that core concept is then expressed in different ways. And the very diversity and ubiquity was across the earth in every society that you're using against God would be used as a proof that there is a God, or some sort of a supernatural force that exists.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the argument that they make. And my counter to that is actually, no, we can look inside the brain and at evolutionary theory to explain why even that concept is constructed by humans and not vice versa. That is, we made gods and God did not make us. Because, for example, if you stimulate certain parts of the temporal lobe, people will experience floating out of their body. They'll experience a sense presence. There's an invisible being in the room with me right now. I can just sense him here. And you can just poke around there and do brain stimulation. You can do it with like electromagnetic fields. You can do it through sleep deprivation, through hunger and starvation, high altitude.
And so playing the role of a theist, I'd say, well, of course there's that. If God's going to have a relationship with people, there has to be a way that God can direct evolution so that people will have a way to communicate. Do we have, it's not a miracle that I see, I have to have eyes to see. So if I'm going to have a relationship with God, there has to be a part of my brain to do that.
Good argument. And that is the argument that they make. So, and then I come back and say, okay, but if God did it that way, why is it that somebody born in India doesn't believe in your God at all? He believes in Ganesha, the blue elephant god. But why would God have done it that way? And had I been born there, that's what I would believe instead of a Western. So why is my brain different than the Indian's brain?
And the argument that some would make, who are universalists, would say that both of those individuals are in touch with the same supernatural force or ultimate reality or the real. People have different characterizations of what that is. And that so many people do that is a demonstration that there's some deep need.
Right, exactly. A deep need that evolved like all of our other needs. And you could just start with something like hunger and thirst and sex. I mean, really basic drives that obviously we evolved for very specific reasons for survival. But you just start building onto that all these other beliefs that are really no different. They're just emotions evolved to drive behavior to do certain things, including the emotion of wanting to be with other people, a social thing.
Okay, so we have this is an anthropological social argument, which you make. Others would make analytical kinds of arguments to undermine the theist argument. So those are two broad categories of atheistic arguments. Are there others?
Well, the problem of evil,
I
think, is probably the biggest one in terms of the way things are in the world and the way things should be if there were a God or not a God. And the way the world is structured with evil, why bad things happen to good people. And I'm not talking about why you hate me and why there's genocide. No, I mean just like innocent children getting cancer. Why would that happen? In a universe where there's an all-powerful, all-good God, that shouldn't be happening. In a universe where there is no God, that is exactly what would happen. So it fulfills that. It's sort of a prediction.
Right. The argument from evil is a strong one because it leads directly without a lot of complicated arguments to the fact that the universe has no God. To explain it with a God, you have to go through some complex thinking, and theists have a lot of those.
They do.
And there are dozens of explanations for the problem of evil, but they're complicated. They take books.
That's right. I know.
You had one statement that therefore there's no God.
Right.
To go the other way. So that's three. Would you say those are the three core kind of approaches for atheists? Are there any others?
Well, the cosmological arguments that are still a little iffy because we don't know enough now. But the idea that universes can pop into existence out of nothing, out of the quantum foam fluctuations, because nothing is actually not nothing, but it's quantum physics and so forth. At the Planck scale, nothing is actually teeming with energy and things pop in and out of existence. Right. Maybe that's where universes come from. Or maybe there's multiple universes, the multiverse of various kinds. But what those really do is they just remove the need for a God.
So that's really part of your first category, in a sense.
That's right.
It's analytical approaches from science or philosophy to undermine the core thinking of religion, because each of those have counter arguments, as you well know. I'm just looking for these broad categories of how to understand atheists. So it's the analytical arguments, whether they're scientific or philosophical, the anthropological, sociological, and then the problem of evil.
But the difference here, just two really. There's negative arguments that are just built around countering the theist arguments to leave them nothing to stand on. Mm-hmm. And then therefore you just infer, okay, then there must be no God. Mm. My argument is, because most of these atheists start the debate going, look, I know I can't prove a negative, however, I can counter all of your arguments. I'm actually taking a different approach. I'm saying I actually can show you how humans and cultures construct gods and religions, and that's a positive evidence in favor of that we invented gods.